Hey guys, what's up? Oek here. Today I'm bringing you guys an intro guide to World of Jade Dynasty PvP, with a special focus on the class that I made, the Ghost King, or better known as the Berserker in the English community. I'm gonna quickly cover, well, try to quickly cover the fundamentals of PvP in this game, um, some game theory, some cooldown trading, uh, quickly show you guys the two skill builds that I personally use for 1v1 tag matches and also large scale clan or faction battles. And last but not least, I'm going to show you guys some footages from my previous sparring session with a couple guildies and friends. Just to kind of like wrap everything together to give you guys a feel of how PvP combat actually feels and plays in this game. So without further ado, let's dive into it. So PvP in World of Jade Dynasty kind of feels to me like a combination of Lost Ark and Blade and Soul. Uh, taking the tech chase part from Blade and Soul and also the super armor part from Lost Ark. Uh, at least for Berserker class, because basically you're not really doing any damage until you get your opponent under a crowd control. And once you do that, most of your abilities will extend that hard CC until they become immune to it. So kind of feels like Lost Ark a little bit. Now every class have access to two universal ability. The first one here being the block ability. Excuse me. So once you press this ability, you will immediately gain 10% damage reduction, and it opens up a 1-second window where any attempt to put your character under hard CC will immediately trigger a counter attack, which will in turn attempt to CC your opponent, like you guys can see in the preview video over here. Now the second ability that's shared across all the classes is the CC break ability. This ability can only be used when your character is under a hard crowd control. It will immediately break you free and trigger an aerial attack, which will attempt to counter CC your opponent. Now besides these two, every class also has access to their own class unique CC break ability. In the case of the Berserker or the Ghost King, it is the Avatar ability. Yeah, so basically it breaks you out of CC, it puts you in avatar form for 3 seconds, unless you're talented, which I will explain a bit later. So for 3 seconds you're immune to, well, you have 3 seconds super armor, you're immune to any form of crowd control, and you gain a new set of abilities which I will showcase later on. Now every class is different, this is strictly for the Berserker class. So I'm going to try to quickly go over the entire Berserker's toolkit. The number one ability you see on my action bar is the block ability, as explained previously. Number two is your first gap closer. You will charge the target, root them for 3 seconds, and while you're charging, you are granted a super armor. If you pay attention to the buff area over here, you're gonna see that buff. Right. Now, number three on my bar is I'm close mid-range, almost instant CC ability. It's probably the one that you're gonna be using the most. And number four is what we call it, the cinematic slash. Now the reason why we call it the cinematic slash is because of this. Right. It looks pretty fucking cool. It's your hardest hitting ability, but you probably don't want to turn on that option. In PvP, people can, you don't want to do that. Let's just go turn off. I believe this setting is turned on by default, so you want to go into the third tab on top, then go into the second tab. 1, 2, 3, the third section, and make sure you turn that off. So the cinematic slash, I mean technically it's called, if you translate it word by word, it's the spectral bloody shadow slash. Anyway, it's your hardest hitting ability. It can only be used when your opponent is in hard CC. Deals a lot of fucking damage and also granting you super armor for not the entire duration. There is a short animation lock at the end of it, you know, for tech chasing purposes, like explained previously. But yeah. The Q ability here is, I call it the spinning wheel of death. Short to medium range CC, however, it doesn't stun or CC the enemy immediately. It's gonna hit your opponent a couple times, it's gonna come back to you, and on its way back, it's gonna CC the target, like so. Your E ability, or my E ability rather, is the second gap closer. After a short casting time, it's gonna make your character charge towards your target, and while your character is charging, you're also granted a super armor buff, and upon impact, it's gonna put your target under a 3-second CC. Next ability, the R ability, it's a cage, so it's gonna put this massive cage at the location of your target, and it's gonna prevent them from exiting. It's gonna prevent them from exiting or other people from entering the cage besides yourself and your allies, I guess. And while you're flying, as you guys can see, there's a casting range. There's a short range, and as you're flying towards the target, you are also granted a super armor buff. Now the other ability here, it's not really relevant to, you know, to the resource cooldown trading aspect. It's more like about damage dealing, so I'm not going to go over it immediately. Number 5 here, it's a buff for 10 seconds which enables you to lifesteal. Now the cool thing about this one is it's actually not on a GCD, so you can press it while you're doing damage, basically whenever. Over here you have your class unique CC break. The avatar. Last 3 seconds without the talent, super armor, all that good stuff. Yeah. V is your shield wall ability. Sorry, that's a wild term. It's your damage reduction ability, which gives you, I think it lasts for 5 seconds. Yeah, there you go. It gives you 30% damage reduction. Pretty straightforward. You can actually use this ability even if you're under crowd control. Pretty neat. Now, what's unique about the Berserker class compared to the other class, you actually have 2 sets of abilities. Currently, I'm in the glaive stance, right, which is more like an aggressive stance. You can also swap to a 2-handed sword stance, which changes some of your abilities, like the E gap closer has been changed into this ability, which after a short animation, it will stun all targets under you. And while you're performing this ability, you will have super armor for almost the entirety of it. Your C ability becomes this charge slash, which gives you a very long super armor duration. And this is for, yeah, one of the damage rotation. Doesn't really matter. So, tech chases. So how do you do that exactly? Well, that actually requires you to know almost every class's animation and their animation lock period. For the Berserker, for example, if I use the E ability, if you pay attention here, right, in the buff area, the super armor buff will disappear before the animation is fully completed, giving your opponent a window of opportunity to tech chase you. Same thing with the C ability here. See, there's an animation lock. So how do you deal with this? So you deal with this with the tumble ability or your shift key. Right? When you tumble, you are granted a slight frame of super armor. And also, I'm pretty sure shift can cancel all kinds of animation lock. For example, if I use my E ability and I expect my opponent to tech chase me, I can use a shift to quickly cancel that animation lock to prevent myself from getting to a CC. Like so. So with that out of the way, just to wrap it up, the entire PvP dynamic or how it's played is basically knowing as much about your opponent's class as possible. You know, knowing their animation lock, knowing what kind of CC abilities they have, and and basically exploit that, right? Exploit their animation lock, effectively trading your own super armor to avoid their CC attempts, and then basically keep doing that until your enemy run out of options, until they run out of cooldowns, until they run out of super armor buffs, until they run out of CC breaks, and then that's when you do your damage. I think now I'm just gonna show you guys some footages of the sparring session, and it'll give you an idea of how PvP is played. It's pretty fast paced. It's pretty impactful. I personally really like it. Actually, before I show you guys the footages of the sparring session, I forgot to go over my skill builds. So there you go. So this one over here is strictly for 1v1s, tag matches, or actual 3v3s. Actually, it's debatable. So I would say more for 1v1 tag matches. So this one gives you that cage ability. And the second build is more for larger scale PvP events like 50 versus 50 faction wars, or 100 versus 100 clan wars, or 200 versus 200 open world PvP. So what this one gives you, like, you do lose the cage, but you gain the 6-second duration on your avatar ability. There you go. So for the avatar ability, the first ability I used was a frontal slash, which deals a moderate amount of damage, but also heals you back depending on how many targets you hit and how much damage you do. The second ability is the splitting sword ability. It's a charged up attack, it deals pretty heavy damage. And also you have another ability. It's your 2 ability on the bar. I didn't get a chance to show it to you. Basically what it does, it just sucks everybody to you, and after doing so, it's going to put them under crowd control. Yeah. So anyway, this wraps up this first introduction video to World of Jade Dynasty PvP. I guess it turned out to be more like a Berserker focused PvP guide, but anyway, there should still be a lot of relevant information regarding PvP in general. If you guys have more questions, or if you guys have any questions, or want to see or know more about the game, let me know in the comment section, or you guys can always find me in the English community Discord awake. Alright, see you guys.